Captain Ryan Kim stared at the emergency message flashing on his screen and felt his stomach drop. This was not how he wanted to spend his Tuesday. He was a cargo hauler, not a diplomat. His ship, the Celestial Prospect, was designed to move supplies between colonies, not to deal with alien royalty. Marcus Lee, his best friend and engineer, looked over his shoulder and whistled low. The Valtharian Empire wants to meet with us. Are they insane? Apparently, there are no official diplomats in this sector, Ryan said, rubbing his temples. We just got deputized. Jenny Park, the communications officer, rushed onto the bridge holding her tablet. I have been reading everything I can find about Valtharians. This is bad, Ryan. Really bad. They are super formal and their society has like a million rules. One wrong move and they could declare war. David Choi, the youngest member of the crew and their navigator, spun in his chair. War? Over what? Bad manners? Yes, Ryan said flatly. Exactly that. The Valtharians were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They controlled 12 star systems and had technology that made human innovations look like stone tools. Their empress, Lyanna Veltar, was legendary. She had ruled for over 2 centuries and was known for being brilliant, strategic, and absolutely ruthless when it came to matters of honor. The meeting was set for Nexus Prime, a neutral trade station that floated in the space between territories. Ryan and his crew had exactly 6 hours to prepare. Jenny drilled them on proper greetings. Marcus made sure their dress uniforms were clean. David practiced walking without slouching. Remember, Ryan said as they stood outside the docking bay door. Bow when she enters. Do not make direct eye contact unless she speaks to you first. And for the love of everything, do not insult her. How would we even insult her accidentally? Marcus asked. I do not know, Ryan admitted. But knowing our luck, we will find a way. The meeting chamber was massive and decorated with flowing banners and crystal sculptures. Other alien species were already present, including the tall insectoid Kresh and the floating orb like lumens. Everyone looked formal and serious. Ryan felt sweat forming on his back. Then she entered. Empress Lyanna Veltar was tall, maybe 7 feet, in her ceremonial platform shoes. Her skin had a faint luminous quality like pearl. She wore elaborate robes that seemed to shift colors as she moved. Her face was angular and sharp, with eyes that looked almost purple in the strange lighting. On her head sat a crown made of what looked like living metal. But what caught Ryan's eye was the decorative armor piece she wore. It covered her lower back and hips and was made of interlocking plates that shimmered with each step. It was clearly ceremonial and probably cost more than his entire ship. The craftsmanship was incredible. She turned to survey the room and Ryan leaned toward Marcus. He wanted to comment on how impressive the armor work was. The detail was amazing. Nice ass, he whispered, meaning the armor piece. At that exact moment, his universal translator, which had been working perfectly all day, decided to malfunction. Instead of translating his words into proper context, it broadcast them literally in clear Valtharian. The words echoed through the chamber. The room went silent. Completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop in the vacuum of space. Every Valtharian in the room turned to stare at Ryan. Their expressions ranged from shock to fury to what might have been fear. The guards reached for their weapons, which looked like they could vaporize him in seconds. Oh, no, Marcus breathed. Ryan felt his blood turn to ice. What did I say? Jenny had gone pale. You just told the Empress nice ass. In front of everyone. Using the crudest possible phrasing. I meant the armor, Ryan said desperately. The armor piece. It was a compliment about the craftsmanship. The translator does not care what you meant, Jenny hissed. It said what it said. Empress Lyanna had gone very still. Her advisors were whispering urgently to her in their own language. One of them, was making gestures that clearly suggested immediate execution. Another seemed to be arguing for imprisonment. A third looked like they might faint. Ryan considered running, but where would he go? They were on a space station. His ship was docked, and even if he could reach it, the Valtharians would blow them out of the sky before they cleared the station perimeter. The Empress raised one hand and the whispering stopped. She walked forward slowly, her robes flowing behind her. Each step seemed to take an eternity. Ryan could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. She stopped directly in front of him. She was taller than him by almost a foot. Her purple eyes looked down and studied him like he was some kind of interesting but possibly dangerous specimen. Then she spoke. Her voice was clear and carried across the chamber without needing amplification. Say it again. Ryan blinked. What? Say it again, she repeated. What you just said. Say it to my face. Ryan looked at Marcus, who looked terrified. He looked at Jenny, who was shaking her head frantically. He looked at David, who had backed up several steps. Your Majesty, Ryan started. I apologize. There was a translation error. I was commenting on your armor. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. I know what you meant, Liana said. But I want you to say what you said. Again. Ryan swallowed hard. This had to be some kind of test. Or maybe she was toying with him before ordering his death. But he had already dug this hole. There was no way out but through. Nice ass, he said, quietly. Louder, she commanded. Nice ass, Ryan said louder. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps. One of the advisors actually fainted. The guards looked at each other, unsure whether to attack or wait for orders. But Empress Liana did something unexpected. She smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was there. In 2 centuries, she said, no one has ever spoken to me so directly. No flowery language. No careful political dancing. Just raw, unfiltered honesty. She turned to address the room. This human, she announced, has shown me something I had forgotten existed. Genuine expression. My council will say this is an insult. They will demand his punishment. But I see it differently. She looked back at Ryan. You will join me for dinner. Tonight, alone. We have much to discuss about your species and this fascinating concept of being direct. Then, she swept out of the chamber, her advisors scrambling to follow. The other alien species began to disperse quickly, clearly wanting no part of whatever drama was unfolding. Ryan stood frozen as his crew gathered around him. What just happened? David asked. I think Marcus said. Slowly, Ryan just accidentally started a diplomatic incident. Or maybe prevented one. I honestly cannot tell. Jenny was staring at the door where Liana had exited. Did she just ask you on a date? That was not a date, Ryan said. That was definitely not a date. But even as he said it, he was not sure. The way she had looked at him. That smile? The way she said they had much to discuss. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. Well, buddy, you wanted adventure. Looks like you've got it. Ryan groaned. I just want to haul cargo. Is that too much to ask? Apparently, Jenny said yes. Yes, it is. As they walked back to their ship, Ryan could not shake the feeling that his life had just changed in ways he could not even begin to understand. And it all started because he tried to compliment some armor and his translator decided to have the worst timing in human history. Nice ass, Marcus said, grinning. Shut up, Ryan muttered. But he could not help smiling just a little. Ryan stood outside the private dining chamber, trying not to panic. He had changed into his cleanest uniform, which still looked shabby compared to the elaborate outfits he had seen on the Valtharians. Jenny had coached him for 3 hours on proper dining etiquette, but his head was spinning with rules about which utensil to use and how many times to bow. You will be fine, Marcus had said before Ryan left the ship. Just be yourself. That seems to be what she wants. Being myself is what got me into this mess, Ryan had replied. Now he stood at the door, and it slid open before he could knock. Inside the chamber was smaller than he expected. There was a table set for two with strange crystalline dishes and cups. Soft light came from floating orbs that drifted near the ceiling. And at the far end of the room stood Empress Liana. She had changed out of her ceremonial robes. Now she wore something simpler, though still clearly expensive. Her hair was down instead of piled up under her crown. She looked younger somehow, less intimidating. Almost normal. Come in, she said. Sit. Ryan entered and sat across from her. The chair adjusted itself to his height, which was slightly unsettling. A servant appeared from nowhere and poured something into his cup, then vanished again. You look terrified, Liana observed, respectfully. Your Majesty, Ryan said. Yes, I am. She smiled, that same small smile from earlier. Good. At least you are honest about it. Do you know how many people pretend they are not afraid of me? Ryan picked up his cup and took a careful sip. It tasted like citrus and starlight, if starlight had a flavor. Probably most of them? All of them, she corrected. Every single one. They bow and scrape and say the right words, but inside they are calculating, trying to figure out what I want to hear, what will benefit them most. No one just talks to me. She leaned forward slightly. Then you come along, a cargo hauler from a species we barely know, and you look at me and say, nice ass. Ryan winced. I really was talking about the armor. I know, Liana said. I had the translator recordings analyzed. Your eye movement showed you were looking at the decorative piece, not at me. Your tone indicated appreciation for craftsmanship, not improper interest. But do you know what? It does not matter. How does it not matter? Ryan asked, confused. Because the point is not what you meant, Liana explained. The point is that you spoke without thinking about consequences. You saw something you found impressive, and you said so. When was the last time someone spoke to me without rehearsing their words 1,000 times first? Never. Ryan guessed on exactly, she said. Never. Not in 200 years. They ate in silence for a moment. The food was strange but good. Ryan tried to use the right utensils and mostly succeeded. Liana watched him with what seemed like amusement. Tell me about humans, she said finally. Your species is new to the galactic community. What makes you different? Ryan thought about how to answer. We are messy, he said. We improvise a lot. We make mistakes and then fix them. We argue with each other constantly, but somehow we get things done. We are not elegant like the Valtherians or logical like the Kresh. We just kind of stumble forward and hope for the best. Stumble forward, Liana repeated. What a strange way to describe your civilization. It works for us, Ryan said. Most of the time anyway. Liana set down her utensil. Let me tell you about Valtherians. We are old. Very old. Our society has been refined over thousands of years. Every gesture has meaning. Every word is chosen carefully. We have rules for everything. Rules for greeting. Rules for eating. Rules for breathing practically. That sounds exhausting, Ryan said before he could stop himself. Liana agreed. You have no idea how exhausting it is. I wake up every day and put on my crown and my robes and I perform. I say the scripted words. I make the expected gestures. I am the Empress, and the Empress must be perfect. Always. There was something in her voice that sounded tired. Not physically tired, but soul tired. Like someone who had been carrying a heavy weight for too long. Do you ever get to just be yourself? Ryan asked. Liana looked at him for a long moment. No, she said quietly. I do not think I even remember who that is anymore. They talked for hours. Ryan told her about growing up on Earth, about learning to fly, about his first cargo run that went completely wrong. Liana told him about the politics of the Empire, about the different factions always trying to gain favor, about the loneliness of command. At one point, Ryan made a joke and Liana laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polite, measured response he had heard from other Valtharians. The sound seemed to surprise her as much as it did him. When did you last laugh like that? Ryan asked. Liana thought about it. I cannot remember. As the evening went on, Ryan noticed the guards outside the door. They had been there all night watching, probably recording everything, definitely reporting back to her advisors. They do not approve of this, Ryan said, nodding toward the door. They do not approve of anything I do, Liana said, but especially not this. Chancellor Theron probably has a dozen people analyzing every word we have spoken, looking for ways to end this. End what? Ryan asked. This, Liana gestured between them. Whatever this is, you are dangerous to them. Not because you are threatening, but because you represent change. And change terrifies people who benefit from things staying the same. So what happens now? Ryan asked. Liana stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Now I do something I have not done in a very long time. I make a choice based on what I want instead of what is expected. She turned back to him. I am extending this diplomatic mission indefinitely. I want your crew to come to Valtheron Prime, our homeworld. I want to learn more about humans, about this stumbling forward approach to life. Ryan stood as well. Your advisors are going to hate that. Yes, Liana said. They will, but I am the Empress. My word is law. She walked closer to him. Tell me honestly, do you want to come? Or would you rather take your ship and run as far from here as possible? Ryan should have said he wanted to run. That would have been the smart answer, the safe answer. But looking at Liana, he saw something he recognized. He saw someone who was tired of playing a role. Someone who wanted something real, even if just for a little while. I will come, he said. But I cannot promise we will not cause more diplomatic incidents. Liana smiled, and this time it was a full smile. I am counting on it. The next day, the announcement was made. The human crew would accompany Empress Liana to Valtheron Prime for an extended cultural exchange. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Back on the ship, Marcus stared at Ryan like he had grown a second head. You said yes? Just like that? She asked me to come, Ryan said. What was I supposed to say? No, Jenny suggested. You were supposed to say no. We are cargo haulers, Ryan, not diplomats, not ambassadors. We haul things from point A to point B. Maybe it is time we did something different, Ryan said. David was looking at his datapad. The Valtharian news feeds are going crazy. Half of them think this is the best thing ever. The other half think the Empress has lost her mind. One guy's calling for her to be removed from power. She's been in power for 2 centuries, Ryan said. I think she can handle some criticism, but Marcus looked worried. Can we? Ryan, this is serious. We are going to be in the spotlight. Everything we do will be analyzed. One mistake, and we could start an actual war. Then we will not make mistakes, Ryan said with more confidence than he felt. Jenny sighed. You like her. Do not you? Ryan did not answer right away. Finally, he said, I think she is lonely and tired. And maybe we can help. Or maybe Marcus said we will make everything worse. Guess we will find out, Ryan said. The celestial prospect detached from Nexus Prime and followed the Valtharian Imperial ship toward their territory. Ryan stood on the bridge watching the stars stream past. Behind them was the life they knew. Ahead was complete uncertainty. This is insane, Marcus said, standing next to him. Probably, Ryan agreed. But you are doing it anyway. Ryan thought about Liana, about the way she had laughed, about the tiredness in her voice when she talked about performing her role every day, about how she had looked at him and asked him to say it again. Yeah, he said. I am doing it anyway. The ships jumped to faster than light travel, and the stars blurred into lines of light. There was no turning back now. Val Theron Prime appeared on the view screen, and Ryan forgot how to breathe. The planet was beautiful in a way that seemed almost impossible. Crystal spires rose from the surface, catching the light of twin suns. Gardens floated in the air, suspended by technology Ryan could not begin to understand. The cities looked like they had been grown rather than built, with organic flowing shapes that spiraled upward. "That is incredible," David whispered. "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "And completely terrifying." The celestial prospect landed in a private bay reserved for imperial guests. When the doors opened, Ryan and his crew stepped out onto a platform made of what looked like solid light. It held their weight perfectly, but he could see through it to the gardens below. A group of Valtherians waited for them. At the front was a tall, thin man with sharp features and eyes that reminded Ryan of a calculating machine. His robes were dark blue and covered in symbols of rank. "I am Chancellor Theron," he said. "I oversee the Imperial Council and advise Her Majesty on all matters of state." "You are the humans." It was not really a question, but Ryan answered anyway. "Yes, sir." "I am Captain Ryan Kim. This is my crew." Theron looked them over like he was inspecting something unpleasant. "Her Majesty has requested that you be given quarters in the palace. This is highly irregular. Visiting species are typically housed in the diplomatic district. We appreciate the hospitality," Ryan said carefully. "It is not hospitality," Theron replied coldly. "It is the Empress exercising poor judgment. But her word is law, so you will be accommodated. Try not to break anything." He turned and walked away. Several other Valtherians followed him, all of them giving the humans unfriendly looks. "Well," Jenny said, "that went great." Their quarters turned out to be a series of connected rooms that were each bigger than Ryan's entire ship. The furniture adjusted itself to human proportions. The walls could change color based on mood. There was a bathroom with a tub that looked like it could fit 10 people. "This is ridiculous," Marcus said, flopping onto a couch that immediately molded itself to his body. "We are cargo haulers. We do not belong here." A door chimed and Liana entered. She had changed again into more casual clothing, though casual for her still looked formal by human standards. Her hair was pulled back, and she wore minimal jewelry. "Do you like the room?" she asked. "They are amazing," Ryan said. "Also completely over the top." "That is Valtherian style," Liana said with a slight smile. "Why have something simple when you can have something elaborate?" She walked to the window that overlooked the city. "I want to show you my world. The real parts. Not just the palace and ceremonies. Would you join me?" "All of us," Jenny asked. "Just Ryan for now," Liana said. "The rest of you are free to explore the palace grounds. I have assigned guides to show you around." After the others left, Liana led Ryan through corridors that seemed to shift and change. They took a private transport that flew them over the city. Below, people went about their lives. Markets bustled with activity. Children played in parks. It looked almost normal. "They're staring at you," Ryan said. "Everyone we pass. They're staring at both of us," Liana corrected. "The Empress does not usually travel like this. And certainly not with an alien." "Does that bother you?" Ryan asked. "No," Liana said. "It feels good, actually. Like I'm doing something real instead of just performing." They landed in a garden that floated 1,000 feet above the ground. It was private, protected by shields that made it invisible from below. Flowers that Ryan had never seen bloomed in impossible colors. A stream ran through the center, appearing from nowhere and disappearing into mist. "This is my place," Liana said. "No one else comes here. Not even my advisors." "It is peaceful," Ryan said. They sat by the stream. Liana picked up a stone and tossed it into the water. "Tell me about Earth. What is your home like?" Ryan thought about how to describe it. "Messy," he said. "Beautiful but messy. We have oceans and mountains and deserts. We have billions of people all crowded together trying to figure out how to live without destroying each other. It rains and the sun shines and sometimes the weather kills people. But we keep building anyway. It sounds chaotic, Liana said. It is, Ryan agreed. But it is home. Liana was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I envy species that can feel that way. Valtherians have been so focused on perfection for so long that we have forgotten how to just exist. Everything must serve a purpose. Everything must be optimized. There is no room for chaos. Maybe a little chaos is not so bad. Ryan said. My advisors would disagree, Liana said. Chancellor Theron especially. He thinks you are dangerous. He's already working to undermine your presence here. What can he do? Ryan asked. Many things, Liana said. He controls the council. He has influence over the noble houses. He can make life very difficult for you. For all of us. So why keep me here? Ryan asked. Why not just send us home and avoid the problem? Liana looked at him directly. Because for the first time in 200 years, I feel like I can breathe. Because when I talk to you, I do not have to calculate every word. Because you looked at me and said something stupid and honest, and it reminded me that there is more to existence than ceremonies and protocols. She reached out and touched his hand. It was the first time she had made physical contact beyond formal greetings. Her skin was warm, and her touch sent a small shock through him. I know this is complicated, she said. I know I am asking you to stay in a situation that could become dangerous. But I need you to understand something. You matter to me. What we have started here matters to me. Ryan should have been scared. He should have been thinking about the political implications and the danger and all the ways this could go wrong. But instead, he found himself squeezing her hand back. It matters to me too, he said. They stayed in the garden for hours talking about everything and nothing. Liana told him about her childhood before she became empress. Ryan told her about learning to fly and the first time he almost crashed his ship. They laughed and argued and sat in comfortable silence. When they returned to the palace, it was late. Marcus was waiting in their quarters, looking worried. We have a problem, he said. What now? Ryan asked. Jenny has been arrested, Marcus said. What? Ryan said sharply. Why? Apparently she violated some protocol at dinner. Theron is saying she insulted a noble. They took her to a holding cell. That is ridiculous, Ryan said. Jenny would never insult anyone. She's the most careful person I know. Marcus shook his head. I think Theron set her up. I think this is him making a move. Ryan turned to Liana, who had followed him in. Can you stop this? Liana's expression hardened. Yes, but it will cost me politically. The council will say I am showing favoritism. They will use this against me. I do not care about politics, Ryan said. She's my crew, Liana nodded. Then we get her out. Now. They went to the holding cells, which were in the lower levels of the palace. Theron was there along with several council members. He looked smug. Your Majesty, he said with a shallow bow. I was just about to inform you. The human violated Code 713. The penalty is detention for 72 hours. What exactly did she do, Liana? Asked coldly. She failed to bow at the correct angle to Lord Vax, Theron said. The insult was noted by multiple witnesses. That is absurd, Ryan said. Even if she did, that is an accident, not an insult. Ignorance of law is not an excuse, Theron said. Perhaps this will teach your species to learn our ways before presuming to visit our world. Liana stepped forward. Release her. Now, Your Majesty, I must protest, Theron began. I am not asking, Liana said, and her voice carried authority that made everyone in the room flinch. I am commanding. Release the human immediately. Theron's expression turned ugly. The council will hear of this. Your favoritism toward these aliens is becoming a problem. The only problem here, Liana said, is you overstepping your authority. The council advises. I rule. Remember your place, Chancellor. For a moment, it looked like Theron might argue further. Then he bowed slightly and gestured to the guards. They released Jenny, who looked shaken but unharmed. "This is not over," Theron said quietly as he left. No, Liana agreed, watching him go. "It is not." Back in their quarters, Jenny was pale. "That was deliberate," she said. "He set me up." The noble I supposedly insulted kept changing where he was standing. "No matter how I bowed, it would have been wrong. We need to be more careful," Marcus said. "No," Ryan said. "We need to be ready. Theron is not going to stop." This was just the opening move. Liana stood at the window looking out over the city. "He wants me to send you away. He thinks if he makes things difficult enough, I will give up and return to how things were. Will you?" Ryan asked. She turned to face him. "No, but this is going to get worse before it gets better." "Are you prepared for that?" Ryan looked at his crew. They looked back at him. Slowly, Marcus nodded. Then Jenny. Then David. "We are in this," Ryan said. "Whatever comes." Liana smiled, but it was a tired smile. "Then we prepare for war. Not with weapons, but with politics and strategy. Theron has underestimated both of us. That will be his mistake." As his crew settled in for the night, Ryan stood on the balcony looking at the alien stars. Somewhere out there was Earth and the simple life he used to have. But that felt very far away now. He was in deep water, and the currents were pulling him further from shore. All he could do was swim and hope he did not drown. 3 weeks had passed since Jenny's arrest, and the tension in the palace had grown thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan spent his days walking a tightrope between helping Liana with cultural reforms and avoiding the traps that Theron kept setting. The Chancellor had become bolder, making it clear he wanted the humans gone. Meanwhile, David had made an unexpected discovery. While exploring the city, he had befriended a group of young Valtherians who gathered in underground clubs. They were tired of the rigid traditions and saw the human presence as a sign that change was possible. David brought Ryan to one of these gatherings. The club was hidden beneath a market district. Inside, the space was packed with young Valtherians who talked and laughed with an energy Ryan had not seen anywhere else on the planet. "They want to hear from you," David said. "They want to know what Earth is like." Ryan found himself standing before a crowd of curious faces. He talked about humanity's messy history, about wars and peace, about art and music and the million ways humans found to express themselves, about making mistakes and learning and moving forward anyway. The young Valtherians listened with an intensity that was almost overwhelming. When he finished, they erupted in questions. What was it like to choose your own path? How did humans deal with disagreement? Was it scary to live without strict rules? Sometimes, Ryan admitted. But it is also free. A young woman stepped forward. Her name was Kira, and she spoke for the group. "We want that freedom. We want to be able to question things without being labeled as disrespectful. We want to create new things instead of just maintaining old traditions. Change is coming," Ryan said. "But it will not be fast. We know," Kira said. "But having you here proves it is possible. That is why Theron fears you so much." When Ryan returned to the palace, Liana was waiting in his quarters. She looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly. "Theron has made his move," she said. "He is calling for a challenge of authority." Ryan had learned about this ancient tradition. Any citizen could challenge an imperial decision through a formal test. If the challenger won, the decision would be overturned. If they lost, they would be exiled. "Who is challenging Ryan?" asked me, Liana said. "Or rather you. Theron cannot challenge me directly, but he can challenge your right to be here. If you lose the challenge, you will be exiled, and our cultural exchange ends. All reforms will be halted. Everything we have worked for will be finished." "What is the challenge?" Ryan asked. "A test of wisdom and strategy," Liana explained. You will be given scenarios about governance and diplomacy. You must solve them in ways that satisfy both Valtherian values and demonstrate that humans understand our culture. The entire Empire will be watching. When is this happening? Ryan asked. Tomorrow, Liana said. I am sorry. I tried to stop it, but the council voted. The law is clear. Then we prepare, Ryan said. Tonight. They worked through the night. Liana taught him the deeper principles of Valtherian philosophy. Marcus helped him think through strategic scenarios. Jenny drilled him on cultural nuances. David brought insights from his young Valtherian friends about what the next generation valued. By morning, Ryan was exhausted, but as ready as he would ever be. The challenge would take place in the Grand Chamber before the assembled council and broadcast across the Empire. The chamber was massive, with seats rising in tiers around the central platform. Every seat was filled. Theron sat at the front of the council section, looking confident. Liana sat on her throne, which floated above the proceedings. She caught Ryan's eye and gave him a small nod. The challenge began with Theron presenting the first scenario. A colony world requests independence, but the Empire needs its resources. How do you respond? Ryan thought carefully. The traditional Valtherian answer would be to deny the request and maintain control. But that was not what he believed. It was also not what these young Valtherians wanted based on what David had told him. I would grant independence, he said. But I would negotiate a trade agreement that benefits both sides. You get the resources you need. They get autonomy. Sometimes holding tight loses you everything. Opening your hand keeps the connection alive. The council members whispered among themselves. Some looked intrigued. Others looked skeptical. Theron frowned slightly. The scenarios continued. Each one was designed to test Ryan's understanding of Valtherian values, while also pushing him toward traditional answers. But Ryan refused to simply repeat what they expected. Instead, he found ways to honor their principles while introducing new perspectives. When asked about handling dissent, he talked about the value of different voices. When asked about maintaining order, he discussed the difference between stability and stagnation. When asked about honoring the past, he explained that the best way to honor ancestors was to build something worthy of being honored by future generations. Hours passed. The challenges grew harder. Ryan could feel his energy flagging, but he pushed through. He thought about Liana and her tired eyes. He thought about Kira and her friends who wanted to see change. He thought about his crew who had followed him into this impossible situation. The final scenario was presented by Theron himself. An outsider comes to your world, he said. They do not understand your ways. They insult your traditions. They threaten your social order. What do? There was absolute silence in the chamber. Everyone knew this was not just a hypothetical. This was about Ryan himself. Ryan took a deep breath. You talk to them. You find out what they meant versus what they said. You look for the truth beneath the words. And if you find that their presence challenges you in ways that make you uncomfortable, you ask yourself why. Is it because they are wrong? Or is it because they make you question things you have taken for granted? He looked directly at Theron. The greatest threat to any civilization is not outside forces. It is the refusal to grow. Traditions are valuable when they connect you to what matters. But when traditions become chains that prevent you from moving forward, they stop being honorable and become prisons. The chamber erupted in noise. Half the council seemed outraged. The other half seemed thoughtful. The viewing screens showed that across the Empire, people were arguing in the streets. Theron stood. He demands we abandon our ways. He wants us to become like humans. Chaotic, undisciplined. Lost. No, Ryan said firmly. I want you to become the best version of yourselves. Keep what works. Change what doesn't. That is not chaos. That is wisdom. The judges retired to deliberate. Ryan sat down heavily. Marcus squeezed his shoulder. "You did good," he said. "We will see," Ryan replied. An hour later, the judges returned. The head judge was an ancient Valtherian named Elder Taran. She had seen the Empire rise to its current prominence, and her word carried immense weight. "We have reached a decision," she announced. "Captain Ryan Kim has demonstrated understanding of our values while offering fresh perspective on their application. His solutions are unconventional, but not without merit. He has passed the challenge." The chamber exploded with noise. Some cheered. Others shouted in protest. Theron looked like he had been struck. His face went through shock, then rage, then cold calculation. However, Elder Taran continued. "This challenge has revealed a deeper issue. Our empire stands at a crossroads. We can continue as we have for millennia, or we can evolve. The human presence forces us to confront this choice." She looked at Liana. "Your Majesty, we recommend a formal review of imperial policies. Not to abandon our ways, but to examine them. To keep what serves us and release what holds us back." Liana stood and the chamber fell silent. "The recommendation is accepted. We will begin the review process. Captain Kim and his crew will remain as cultural advisors during this period." Theron stood abruptly. "I must protest, Your Majesty. This is madness. Your protest is noted," Chancellor Liana said coolly. "But my decision stands. This session is concluded." As people filed out, Ryan felt like he might collapse. Jenny caught him before he fell. "Easy," she said. "You just changed history. You are allowed to be tired." David was grinning. "Did you see their faces? Half of them looked like you had just told them the sky was green." "Because I kind of did," Marcus said. "You just told an entire civilization to question itself. That is either brilliant or insane." "Maybe both," Ryan admitted. Liana descended from her throne and approached. In private, she said quietly to Ryan. They found their way back to her private garden. The floating sanctuary felt different now. More real somehow. Like it was not just an escape, but a place where actual change could begin. "You were magnificent," Liana said. "I have never seen anyone stand before the council like that." "I was terrified," Ryan admitted. "Good," Liana said. "Fear means you understand the stakes." She moved closer to him. "There is something I need to tell you. Something I have been afraid to say." "What is it?" Ryan asked. "I love you," Liana said simply. Not as the Empress making a political statement. As a person who has found something real in a world of performance. "I love the way you challenge me. The way you make me think. The way you are so completely yourself without apology." Ryan felt his heart hammering. "I love you too. I've been trying not to because it complicates everything, but I do." Liana smiled, and it was the most genuine expression he had ever seen on her face. Everything was already complicated. This just makes it worthwhile. She kissed him. It was their first kiss, and it felt like the world shifted. When they pulled apart, Ryan saw tears in her eyes. 6 months had transformed Valtherum Prime in ways no one could have predicted. The changes were subtle at first, but they grew like ripples spreading across water. Young Valtherians were speaking more freely. Artists were creating work that questioned tradition. Scientists were collaborating with human researchers in ways that broke down centuries of rigid methodology. Ryan stood on a platform watching the construction of the new joint station. It hung in orbit above the planet, a massive structure of combined human and Valtherian design. The Valtherians had contributed their mastery of energy systems and structural integrity. Humans had brought adaptive architecture that could reconfigure based on needs. Together, they had created something neither species could have built alone. Marcus floated nearby in a work suit checking connections. "Over the com," he said, "this thing is incredible. The power distribution system alone is going to revolutionize how we build stations. If we can finish it," Ryan replied. Darren's people have tried to sabotage the project 3 times already. Yeah, but we have caught them every time, Marcus said. They are getting sloppy, or desperate, Ryan thought, but did not say down on the planet. Jenny was teaching a class at the newly established Cultural Exchange Institute. Her students were a mix of young Valtherians, hungry to learn about other species, and the occasional older citizen willing to challenge their assumptions. She had become something of a celebrity among the reform movement. David had officially been appointed as a diplomatic navigator. He spent his time shuttling between Valtheran Prime and other worlds, helping to establish new relationships. The kid who had been a rookie 6 months ago was now a key figure in the growing alliance between humans and Valtherians, and Liana had begun the slow, careful work of reforming the imperial government. She had established the Council of Voices, a new body that included representatives from all social classes. It had no official power yet, but she made sure it was consulted on major decisions. The old council had fought her every step, but they could not stop the momentum. Her relationship with Ryan was no longer a secret. At first, the news had caused a scandal. An empress and an alien? It violated every tradition. But as months passed and the reforms showed results, public opinion shifted. The younger generation saw them as symbols of possibility. The older generation either grudgingly accepted it or held on to their outrage in private. Tonight they were having dinner in their shared quarters. Liana had moved Ryan into a section of the palace that adjoined her own. It was practical, she had said. They worked together so much that having separate spaces was inefficient. But everyone knew the truth, and no one bothered to pretend otherwise. "How was your day?" Liana asked as they ate. "Productive," Ryan said. "The station is 70% complete. Marcus thinks we can finish ahead of schedule." "Good," Liana said. "We need that symbol. Something physical that shows what cooperation can achieve." She set down her utensil, and her expression grew serious. "I received a report today. Theron has been meeting with conservative noble houses. They are planning something." "Another challenge?" Ryan asked. "I do not know," Liana admitted. "But whatever it is will be bigger than last time. He has been too quiet lately. Should we be worried?" Ryan asked. "Always," Liana said with a slight smile. "But being worried has not stopped us yet." After dinner, they stood on the balcony looking at the city. The lights stretched to the horizon, broken only by the dark shapes of floating gardens. It was beautiful, but Ryan knew that beauty hid ongoing tension. "Do you ever regret it?" Liana asked quietly. "Coming here, staying, all of this." Ryan thought about it. The honest answer was complicated. He missed the simplicity of hauling cargo. He missed not having political targets on his back. He missed being anonymous. But then he looked at Liana and thought about the changes they had started. The young Valtherians finding their voices. The collaborative projects bringing species together. The possibility that an ancient empire could evolve without losing its soul. "No," he said. "I do not regret it." Liana leaned against him. "Good. Because I would be lost without you." They were interrupted by an urgent come. It was Marcus, and he sounded panicked. "Ryan, you need to see this." "Now, what is it?" Ryan asked. "Just get to the observation deck," Marcus said. "Bring Liana." They arrived to find Marcus and the others staring at multiple screens. The images showed ships gathering near the orbital station. Dozens of them. They were not military vessels, but civilian craft. Modified freighters. Personal yachts. Even a few old colony ships. "What are we looking at?" Ryan asked. David pulled up an intercept. "These ships are from the outer colonies. They received word about the sabotage attempts. They came to help finish the station." Ryan felt something catch in his throat. "How many?" 200 and counting, Jenny said. "Both human and Valtherian crews. They are volunteering their time and resources." The cum crackled, and a voice came through. "This is Captain Torres of the freighter Distant Star. We heard you could use some extra hands up here. Where do you want us?" Marcus was grinning. I guess people care about this more than we thought. Over the next week, the volunteer fleet worked around the clock. Engineers who had never met collaborated on solutions. Crews shared techniques and learned from each other. What should have taken another month was completed in 10 days. The night before the dedication ceremony, Ryan could not sleep. He found Liana in her office, surrounded by reports and data pads. "You should rest," he said. "So, should you?" she replied. "We are both terrible at taking our own advice," Ryan said. Liana smiled, but it faded quickly. "I am worried about tomorrow. The ceremony will be broadcast across the Empire. Every political faction will be watching. If something goes wrong, it could undo everything. Then we make sure nothing goes wrong," Ryan said. The next morning, the observation platform was packed. Dignitaries from a dozen species had come to witness the unveiling. The old council sat in a reserved section, looking uncomfortable. Theron was noticeably absent. Liana stepped to the podium. Her voice carried across the platform and through every broadcast channel in the Empire. "Today, we dedicate this station not as a monument to any one species, but as proof of what we can achieve together. For too long, my people have stood alone. We were proud. We were strong. But we were also isolated. These humans came to us not with military might or superior technology, but with something more powerful. They brought perspective." She paused and looked directly at Ryan. "They showed us that honoring the past does not mean being trapped by it. That tradition is valuable when it serves life, not when it replaces it. That sometimes the greatest act of courage is to admit you do not have all the answers." The crowd was absolutely silent. Ryan could see faces in the audience. Some were moved. Others were angry. All were listening. "This station represents our future," Liana continued. "A future where different species work together, where we learn from each other, where we are stronger for our diversity, not weaker. I know this frightens some of you. Change always does. But I ask you to look at what we have built and ask yourself if we would be better off refusing to grow." She stepped back and gestured to the station. The lights came on all at once. The structure blazed against the darkness of space. It was magnificent. The crowd erupted in applause. Not everyone joined in. Theron's supporters sat with arms crossed. But the majority of the audience was on their feet. Then the lights flickered. Alarms blared. The station began to list to one side. "Sabotage!" Marcus shouted into the comm. Someone triggered explosive charges in the power core. "How bad?" Ryan demanded. "Bad," Marcus said. The whole thing could come apart. Ryan was moving before he consciously decided to. He grabbed the work suit and was heading for a shuttle. Liana caught his arm. "You do not have to do this," she said. "Yes, I do," Ryan replied. "That station is everything we have worked for." "Then I'm coming with you," Liana said. "No," Ryan said firmly. "Your people need to see you here, calm, in control. They need to know this does not break us." For a moment, he thought she would argue. Then she nodded and let him go. Ryan reached the station with Marcus and a team of volunteers. The damage was worse than he had feared. The power core was failing, and if it went critical, it would destroy the entire structure. They worked in zero, gravity racing against time. Marcus directed teams to stabilize the core. Ryan and others worked to reroute power and contain the blast. Several times they nearly lost it. Once Marcus was almost caught in an explosion. After 3 hours, they got the core stabilized. The station was damaged but salvageable. They had saved it. When Ryan returned to the platform exhausted and covered in soot, the crowd cheered. But he barely heard it. All he could see was Liana's face and the relief written there. Later in private, she held him so tight he could barely breathe. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "Not getting rid of me that easy," Ryan said. The next day, an investigation revealed that Theron had been behind the sabotage. He had ordered it as a final attempt to prove that human-Valtherian cooperation was dangerous. Instead, his action had the opposite effect. The fact that volunteers from both species had risked their lives to save the station became a rallying cry for the reform movement. Terran was arrested and his supporters lost what remaining influence they had. The Council of Voices was given official authority. New policies were enacted that opened up Valtherian society while still honoring core traditions. It was not perfect. There was still Resi,